So Shark Week is this week. I'm thinking of reviewing like a shark game. Shark Week is the annual week-long program that usually starts around the last week of July or the first week of August. It was created in 1987 or 1988. I think it's 1988 because that was the first Shark Week on television, but it could have been thought up in 87, but its first broadcast was in 1988, so yeah, there you go. For a whole week, broadcasting in over 72 countries, Shark Week is devoted to conservation efforts and misconceptions like could Mike Tyson punch a shark, and a fake documentary on the really real prehistoric megalodon being really real nowadays. Yeah, Shark Week was under heavy criticisms for their programs and specials about mythological creatures and prehistoric creatures that they still claim exist. Whether or not they disclaim that it's not real, it's on a channel that talks about real stuff and like actual things that are happening nowadays, so they really shouldn't take that stuff lightly. But this video isn't about Shark Week, no, it's about a game that's based off a movie, that's based off a book, that's based off of actual events, that's based off of an animal that Shark Week is all about. That's right, the pygmy marmoset. No, we're talking about probably the most famous slasher shark there is, Jaws. Jaws was a movie in 1975. It was based off a book, which was based off of kinda true events, and it was also kinda based off of another book that was based off of true events. The kinda true events were actual shark attacks in 1916, but they were bull shark attacks, not the shark that Jaws is, which is a great white. I've always had a fascination with animals. You know, when I was a kid, I read tons of books about them, and sharks were one of them. But I was also terrified of sharks. I mean, I'm still a little bit scared of them, but let's be honest, if you were in the ocean with a 7-foot behemoth charging at you, you'd be scared too. When I was about 4 or 5, that summer, my older brother was watching a whole bunch of different movies, and one of them was Jaws, and that was the movie I happened to join in to watch. And, you know, me being scared of sharks, I was kind of terrified of the movie almost the entire time, up until I realized that Jaws didn't really make that big of an appearance, and when he did, he was just like a goofy animatronic, so I started enjoying the movie. And then we immediately watched Alien. Yeah, I lost a lot of sleep that summer. So for Shark Week, I'm thinking of reviewing one of the 4 games that are based off of the Jaws franchise. But which one should I pick? Well, there's the PS2 game Jaws Unleashed. It's where you play as Jaws and you terrorize the populace. I don't think it has any actual connection to the movies. Then there's the Amiga and Commodore 64 Jaws games, which I think are basically the same game with little differences. I mean, as far as I can tell at least. Then there's also Jaws, Ultimate Predator for the Wii and the 3DS, which I think is a port / a completely different game from the PS2 version. I could probably spend like an entire episode on any one of those games and talk about them at length, but no, I think today we're just going to focus on Jaws for the NES. Jaws for the NES came out in 1987, which seems a little late for a Jaws tie-in movie game, don't you think? But to be fair, that movie did come out before the NES did. Those of you that are fans of the Angry Video Game Nerd probably noticed something on the cartridge. That little rainbow right there. Yeah, LJN. LJN was a toy company and video game producer created in 1970. They were well known for some of the shittiest games they ever brought into existence. They were bought by Acclaim in 1990 until they were fully dissolved in 1944. Man, it seems that Acclaim has been brought up a lot recently in this show. And they've always seemed to be involved in, let's just say, underwhelming games. This game was developed by Atlus. And, wait, that Atlus? Yeah, the same company that created the Shin Megami Tensei games and Persona. And Jaws is nowhere on their list of games. And they're nowhere on the box, and they're nowhere on the cartridge. Hell, they're not even mentioned in the menu. Yet they were proud enough to keep Friday the 13th and Karate Kid on there? So that's a bad sign, right? And it's kind of weird because all the info about this game says that Atlus made it, but like if you check the Wikipedia, if you just Google Atlus Jaws, Atlus's own website, even though I wasn't really expecting a game 40 years ago would show up on a website, hell, Even this Nintendo wiki, which I don't know if it's just a copy-paste, but even so, if you click on Atlas or their list of games, and there's nothing. I don't see any actual evidence that they developed this game. The other developers were Westone Bit Entertainment, though they're uncredited. They were most known for their Wonder Boy / Monster World series. But, I mean, at least they have Jaws listed on the games they made. I think if Atlas actually did develop this game, it was probably very minor, or they left before the project was done, or people just think they did and they actually didn't. Well, I've already talked about game development. Let's talk about the shark. Jaws was a movie from 1975, which was directed by Steven Spielberg. It was adapted from the book Jaws, which was published a year prior. The book was heavily inspired by the author, Peter Benchley's fascination of sharks and the exploits of a fisherman from New York catching a great white in 1964, and the Jersey Shore shark attacks of 1916, and I think Moby Dick was also an inspiration of this. The movie is widely known for the start of the summer blockbuster. It was also the highest grossing film until 1977 when Star Wars came out. The movie is a definite classic. Yeah, looking at it nowadays, the shark is goofy as hell, which is probably one of the reasons I wasn't too scared of it, given I watched it in like 2000. But despite that, this movie should be considered as one of the best. The same could not be said to the sequels. Jaws 2 is just boring and almost a rehash of the first movie. Jaws 3D is a terrible movie. The shark was terrible, but the movie is at least laughably bad. And Jaws 4 The Revenge, well, I think I prefer this one over 2. Granted, I only watched the sequels like maybe twice. I completely understand why people regard 2 as the best sequel. But is Jaws for the NES a faithful adaptation of the movie? Well, let's find out. So, booting up the game, we get the classic look of the Jaws cover, with Jaws going upwards. But this time he's breaching the water instead of what the first movie cover was with him still underwater. Well, at least the Jaws theme is still in there in its NES form. That's kind of neat. And so we start the game, and we're just sailing on the ocean floor. Well, okay, but oh no, we hit Jaws! Well, he sank the boat already. See you later, Robert Shaw. But who the hell is this guy that dropped out of the boat? I mean, he doesn't look like Brody or Richard Dreyfuss. And that's because this isn't Jaws 1 as the game wants you to believe. This is actually an adaptation of Jaws 4. There is really no indication that this is it besides like small details that would show it. Like collecting shells and the final boss and maybe the final game screen. Plus, in the instruction manual they say it's almost as if it's personal. But it doesn't really say that in the game, and they don't really want you to know that it was Jaws 4. Probably because Jaws 4 is regarded as one of the worst movies ever made. I mean, come on, be honest. What kind of game would you rather play, Jaws 1 or Jaws 4? The diver you play as just looks like a typical blonde server dude swimming around. And he's kind of weak. One hit and you're dead. Now, I know if attacked by a great white, you're probably not going to survive one hit. And let's face it, it's Jaws, or Vengeance, as this member of the Jaws family is called. He is a pretty big shark. But still, you couldn't give me like a health meter or something, because it's very easy to get hit in this game. As you swim around, stingrays and tiny sharks come from the left and right, while jellyfish shoot upwards. Which doesn't really seem too bad, but jellyfish are relentless. This really shouldn't be called Jaws, it should be called Jelly. Plus, the sharks in Jaws are somewhat easy to avoid. Jaws just moves from the left to right on the screen going nan nan nan. And you can easily enough dodge him while shooting, again, the jellyfish being the hardest thing to avoid, simply because of how much is happening around you. So you stay underwater for a minute and it brings you back to the top of the overworld. Well, alright, let me just sail a bit now. Oh, come on! Is this the entire game? Yes, it is. There's only one stage really in this entire game. Well, 3 if you count the bonus stage where an airplane will fly by and you have to drop bombs on jellyfish for bonus points. You cannot really control the airplane besides speed, and no, I do not count this as a level. And the final boss, which we'll get to soon. But anyway, yeah, this is the game. You sail around till you hit something, you go underwater, you shoot the population of fish down by a huge margin, and while doing so, you want to collect these seashells, which is the main goal of this game. You know, besides killing Jaws. But seriously, you're stuck on the screen for like a minute, and when Jaws shows up, you can shoot him, but it does no damage to him. What little I did was immediately healed. But that's where the seashells come in. See, there are 2 ports in the game, one here and one there. You have to sail from one point to another while collecting these seashells. The first 5 you gather attaches a tracking device into Jaws, and Jaws just looks surprised and hurt that you did that.
Oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
Although if you give him a fisherman hat, he looks like he's having a good time. After that, you just go back and forth to collect more power, which the cost increases every time, but it doesn't make you have more health. You can still die very easily, and if you die at any time, you go down a power or lose half your shell total, and you lose the tracker. One of the things I don't like is that the tracker is basically useless. It's used to spot Jaws, but it doesn't matter. He always pops up inches away from you, so no matter what, the thing doesn't really help you avoid him. Especially since this game has the worst random encounters than the fucking Final Fantasy games. I can't sail for 2 seconds before hitting something. And Jaws will still show up doing his little vaudeville dance. And you can't hope to fight him with your power level of Yamcha. It just won't cut it. It'll slowly chip away his health, and then again it'll just heal. But only a certain amount will heal, so you could probably get his health down with a power level of Krillin, but I waited until I was a power level of 4 to actually try to take Jaws down. You can also find a submarine that spawns in a random spot once you collect enough points, and this sub is completely useless. Doesn't really help you. I found it to be more of a burden. It was a little bit slower and it was bigger than the diver, so it got hit a lot easier. But it actually gives you 1 extra hit before completely blowing up, because, you know, that's what I want for my submarine, to be completely destroyed by 1 fish. But I managed to get Jaws' health all the way down, but we're not done here. There's one more fight. The game shifts to us on the boat, and Jaws is coming right towards us. We press A to make Jaws rise up, like in the movie, I guess. I mean, at least he doesn't roar. And you have to line him up with the boat so you can ram him again, just like in the movie. But could I actually do this? This could be an impossible challenge, and I did it. And that was it. That was the final boss, and you win. That was the whole game? That was the whole game? That only took me like an hour, and that was only because I spent 30 minutes looking for seashells. I didn't even need to, because like you don't need that much power to beat Jaws the first time. I probably could have beat this with like the 3rd power level up. It's really hard to find original prices for these NES games, but from what I understand, they ranged around like $10 to $60, which due to inflation that makes it like $26 to $156. Which is crazy to think that this game could have been $156. Luckily, there are old Christmas magazines that you can find that has the price listings in them, so I found out that Jaws was about $40, or about $104 in inflation when it came out. But Jesus, $40 for this? This is obviously a cash grab. Little to no story, besides what you get in the instructions, 1 game screen, and again, you could beat this game in like less than an hour. Now I know that the average kid playing this probably wouldn't beat it in an hour or their first few attempts, but still, back then I heard most kids would only get like a few games for Christmas and you were stuck with those games because of how expensive they were. Do you know how lame you would be if the only game you got this year was Jaws? Hey Billy, what did Santa bring you this year? Oh man, this was a good year. I got Double Dragon, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and Legend of Zelda. What did you get? Oh, I got Jaws and Karate Kid. You suck, Stanley. Yeah, but I got this game for like, I don't know, $8 or something, so you could do a lot worse. Yeah, it's weird because this game was only a few dollars. I feel like it's worth that price. Now, if I had bought this for $140, or with today's inflation, $104 fucking dollars, I would be fucking livid that I spent that much on this game. But again, since it was so cheap and easy to get, and let's face it, there are other ways of playing NES games nowadays, I would recommend you play this at least once in your life. It's not that bad, as simple as it is. I could definitely see myself going through this again. At least it's more enjoyable than the sequels. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. And also share this video across the internet. You have a game you want me to review? Why don't you put it down in the comment section? I might get to it. I also have a Twitter where I sometimes post updates, and a Twitch where I sometimes live stream. Thanks for watching.